Hello, and welcome to the Deal Breakdown Podcast, episode 12. This is Wesley with Maton Real Estate, your buyer specialist.
And my name is Phong Tran. I'm from Tran Property Group. I am your seller specialist.
And together we are the Deal Breakdown. Episode 12 last week was our mid-year market update. That's our current events, so you know what's happening in the market. And we did away with our stories. So now we're going to be ping-ponging back and forth with episodes of current events and then our free form. We have been listening to our listeners and our viewers, and they are telling us that these are their two favorite episode styles that we do. So today we are doing a free form podcast. And all that means is we're going to bring up subjects relatively connected to real estate and just talk about our thoughts. I think we have three subjects today that we're going to talk about. The first one is AI. We have to talk about it. We talk about it all the time. Although this time we're going to talk about how we feel about it. And we're going to do the same thing for the other two as well. The second one, we're going to talk about wholesaling, especially here in Oregon, because the rules just changed July 1st, 2025. It just changed. We're going to talk about what is wholesaling. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of wholesaling. We have one in the room with us. And so honestly, someone's probably going to be taking the affirmative, I wonder, and someone might be taking the non-affirmative. I'm not saying I don't like it, just saying let's have a little bit of a battle here, a little spat, because that's what we're here for, is to disagree sometimes. And the third subject we're going to talk about is Zillow. We're going to talk about what the heck's happening with Zillow and just our thoughts on it. Again, our feelings. So less of a look at this current event and more of we're just going to give our opinions today. So let's talk about AI. It's even more prolific than when we last talked about it. I know you use it. I'll have you go first and then let's talk.
I think as a consumer, whenever they're looking at homes, if I'm thinking of real estate, they're able to find a lot more information for maybe a specific house or area or a city. And they're going to be less reliant on agents like us because that information is just widely known via AI. But how it helps me in my business is, it's what I've said in the past episodes of podcasts. It's tremendously helps me cut the curb of how much cold calls. It helps me kind of connect with these consumers who maybe it could be viewed as a bad thing, but they're talking to an assistant of mine and I'm able to kind of bridge that gap. But when you say prolific, do you mean that as a negative?
Not at all. I don't, off the top of my head, know the definition of prolific word for word, but it means it's widespread. It's everywhere. Its tendrils have reached into every aspect.
Which is scary.
It can be
scary, but I think it's good for the whole entire ecosystem.
It's a tool. When the computer and internet came out, people thought that their jobs would be lost. When robots and forklifts came out, they thought, my job's gone. But now we have more jobs than ever before. So think about that.
Some of the more archaic or old jobs are obviously out the door, which sucks. But, that's kind of the nature of how it is.
So what I really want to talk about with AI, I want to create a dichotomy here. You mentioned two different aspects of AI relative to our business. The first one is the AI that is used by the agent, okay? What you use, whether that's for prospecting, whether that's for, and I'll talk a little bit about it, skills, whether that's you, talking to a client, looking for answers. Let's take the AI that agents use and put that into its own category. And then let's also talk about AI that is used by the consumer and how they use it. I think that the consumer AI is a much faster one to talk about. And so let's talk about that first. You mentioned that the consumer's using AI more often. What did you mean by that?
I think, for example, if you just put in ChatGPT and if you just search like a specific address and you can find out comparables and valuations and see if, maybe a specific listing is offering what ChatGPT or AI thinks is probable or like accurate. Not only that, but like they just have access to a lot more information and it gives them just more power in their hands rather than, maybe potentially connecting with a real estate agency because at the end of the day, I think real estate agents are seen as salespeople at the end of the day. And so if they can just talk to a computer that has no emotion or there's no emotional ties to it, I think if it was me, yeah, I'd much rather talk to a computer that will forget who I am in the next 10 seconds.
Yeah, I agree. And I think boiling down what you just said, and correct me if I'm wrong, is AI is providing services and answers that a real estate agent normally would have. So you mentioned the CMA. I know clients that will, like you said, put in addresses and it will spit up what a good offer would be, and they'll let me know. And so the worry for agents is, will I be replaced?
And it's a good worry. I mean,
Yeah, it's healthy.
I mean, if as agents, you and I, yeah, there is a fear that the services that we typically provide, and it's usually all information, typically, like how many bedrooms does it have, like how old the roof is, stuff like that. Obviously, there's some skills that I think an AI can't replace, and that's going to be expectations, like you said at the prior podcast, and really dealing with emotions of purchasing a house, for example, or even selling a house. I think stuff like that can't be replaced. But I think, and again, this is just an assumption and I think it is going to do a lot of the upfront heavy lifting stuff that is easily available. And could this potentially be like, okay, like I don't want to no longer pay a 2.5% commission? Will our fee potentially draw back towards 2, 1.5? I don't know. I think it's way too early to tell. But I think as agents, if you're not utilizing AI to essentially try to bridge the gap and capture maybe more people, more leads, I think you're doing yourself a disservice, not only to yourself, but as a consumer as well.
I agree. And not to get ahead, we will talk about AI used by agents. And so back to the consumer, I always tell people my job is not to find you the home. Partly is. My job is not to open doors. My job, at the end of the day, is to get you to the closing table. And when you're in a real estate transaction, even starting out with the offer and negotiations, there are emotions flying every which way. You have intuition that AI and a machine won't have. And so there's a lot that goes into it emotionally and mentally that an AI can't replace. Information, sure. I mean, even before AI, you enter in parameters and you set up an automatic search for someone. I'm not doing it. I know most of my clients are searching on Zillow themselves anyway. So or like, what would be a good offer? And Zillow spits it out, right? It's been around forever. It comes down to the real estate agent to make the judgment call of, would the seller even take that? What would be a good way to negotiate? Because you are dealing with people with emotions. So, but I agree with you. I do think that AI for the consumer gives them more power in their hands, gives them more knowledge, and they're able to come to the table more well equipped. And also a consumer is going to be able to sniff out the agents that don't know what the heck they're talking about.
Absolutely. I mean, you make a very good point. I mean, it goes back to how real estate was first sold. An agent had an actual physical book of numbers associated with listings. And as technology grew, more power went into the hands of the consumer, which is actually a good thing because commissions have stayed relatively the same, at least I think. And obviously with the onslaught of AI, more power is now given to the consumer, you guys. And so will commissions draw back? Maybe, I don't know. That's another conversation. But I think it is beneficial because you have to look at what sector of the whole workforce is typically being who works, and that's the tech industry. These are numbers people. They're all logical. And so if they can remove most of the upfront heavy lifting, they can pick the house and deal with an actual agent who actually knows what they're doing and be the firefighter, be the counselor in an actual transaction. It makes sense what Jeff Glover said at the conference, that there's going to be more attrition for the latter part of this year because because one, AI, it's so prolific and so much, so prevalent. And it goes back to what I said, if you're not utilizing it, you're just doing a disservice.
Great segue, because I'm going to bring up Glover in the conference I went to, and we talked about AI. And he said, AI, everybody's going to be using AI. Everybody uses AI. If you don't use AI as an agent, we're shifting over to you using it as an agent, you're probably behind. Now, what he said was, you need to identify the things that AI cannot replace. AI cannot replace face-to-face time. And he used that to lean more into how door knocking is going to become even more important because AI can't do that. When you get a call, a prospecting call from an agent, there's going to be a time where you don't know if that's a person or AI. Okay? If someone knocks on your door, you will know that that is a person. And so these things they're shifting into what can AI do and what can't AI do. And I'll let AI do the things that it can do, like what you do with your AI assistant, and what they can't do, which is the face-to-face sit down over coffee, the door knocking on their property, the walking through their property, getting a feel, identifying where emotionally the seller or buyer are at or their motivations. AI cannot do that. But yeah, let's talk about AI that the agents are using. And I think that one of the biggest things that AI is pushing into is prospecting. That is the biggest sector I see it in. I can't think much else because I don't want AI to touch my contracts because I'm sure it would
I don't think it'll ever happen
screw it
because
up.
I think when it comes to contracts, you have to be licensed, and I don't think AI. I mean, I could be wrong. Anything can happen.
Who knows?
But yes, when it comes to prospecting, obviously I know this is towards consumers, but it's what I've said in the past. It's dramatically cut my prospecting time in half because we all love to text. And so my AI, his name is Casey, by the way, and she essentially gets as much upfront information as first, for example, buyer. They're like, okay, what area are you looking in? How many beds, bath? Like, what's important to you? Then when it gets down to like that specific nitty gritty of like maybe motivation or like timeline, they're like, okay, I think you're in a good position. And this is verbatim. Like, do you have time for a 15, 20-minute conversation with Phong, the real estate broker, to kind of continue the conversation? Now, do they sometimes give the Casey, my assistant, the silent treatment? Yeah, of course. But there's a large uptick of people who are like, yes, let's talk. I have time now. And so that has helped dramatically. I don't do a lot of calls because whenever I was testing it out, it just sounded way too robotic. And I didn't see enough conversion for it to make sense for me to continue paying for that specific service. AI texting is a game changer. If you want to sell a lot of houses and help a lot of people, I know you do, I think AI is a must. Because when you're out in appointments, who's talking to your clients? Who's talking to these new leads that you get, 20 leads a day? Who's talking? If you're out showing up, clients' houses, well, for me, I have an AI Casey. They're doing it. And so it allows me to focus on what Jeff Glover said, what AI can't do and what AI can do. And what AI can't do is belly to belly, having that rapport and, converting that specific lead. But something that recently came out, I'm sorry if I'm talking too long. So my CRM is a customer relationship management software. You guys use CRM, I'm very familiar. I use FUB or Follow Up Boss. And they recently came out with it, I swear, like 2 weeks ago, maybe. It's a new feature that allows you to AI email. Now, I know it sounds like, okay, it's just email. But how it works is it scans all of the texts, all of the past emails, and creates a certain AI email catered to what everyone's saying. Like, say it's a follow-up. It's just say, hey, Wes, it's been probably a couple months since we last spoke. We just wanted to check in on how your search is over in Clackamas County. I know when we last spoke, it was a 3-bed, 2-bath house, quarter-acre lot. Is this still what you're looking for, or have things changed? And so it's very customized by your past conversations. And all I do is click it says follow up and it says AI, and it generates it. It is actually fascinating. And then you can make custom ones. They'd be like, okay, like, hey, AI or Casey, create maybe a 2-paragraph asking if these specific houses that I sent you via email, what works? Is there any feedback? Stuff like that. So it saves me trouble. It doesn't make me more stupid because I'm not creating these emails. I don't think so, because I'm still reviewing it to make sure it's legible and correctly formatted. But again, it's been game changer because it just saves a lot of the monotonous, constantly trying to email, get a response, feedback on listings, stuff like that. I'm sure you do the exact same thing.
Oh, that's really cool to hear about. you said it. Your AI is here. It is a reality. You can be in denial all you want, but it is here. And so learning how to use it and utilize it. And I really like that, you called back to Glover, and what you're doing is you're allowing yourself to do the most important things, the actual money making things. If you're outbound cold calling for an hour and you talk to two people, what's going to make more money, that outbound hour or that appointment, that belly to belly, right? You call to get to that appointment. So if you're able to streamline to get you to have better conversations, then yeah, absolutely use it. I do think though that there's a point where it goes from being a tool that you use to a crutch. And I have seen, so we have a couple agents, we've grown a lot. We have a couple agents that rely heavily on AI for almost everything they do. And I just watch their brain warp to needing it to function in this business. Because so if I'm, let me give you, I'm not gonna give you an example, because then if they're ever seeing this, they know. So let me give you an analogy. So let's say you're on the phone, okay? I'm on the phone. You're an agent, okay? And let's say I'm the agent, you're the consumer. I'm on the phone with you, and we're talking about a house, or we're talking about an area. Maybe I don't know the area. I'm here on my laptop. I hit a tab. I go to Google Maps, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know exactly where that is. You're like 10 minutes outside of Malala, right? Bullshit. You didn't know that, but you had the crutch of Google to help you, okay? Or the tool, rather, to help you. Or, oh yeah, let me see. And then I've done this all the time. What do you think would be a good offer? And I'm like, well, I'd have to do more research. Looking 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,700 square feet. And what's happening right now is I'm pulling up RPR, and I'm looking, and I go, honestly, this looks like it's below market value. I think we're going to have to compete for this. Just because I looked at this website here,
Yeah.
and it said that the RVM for this is higher than its list price.
I
I'm
see
gonna
what you
do
mean.
more research. You see what I mean? If I'm in person with someone, I don't have that. What am I just going to sit here on a laptop? And so there's these agents where they function well, maybe as an information base, because they have ChatGPT there, or all of their messages come from ChatGPT. And so when they get to actually on the phone call in real time, or they get to an appointment, they crash out. And so they're relying so heavily, they never learn the skills.
No, you have a very good point. Could it be a crutch? Yes, it's what I said earlier too. Could it make me more stupid? Yeah, certainly. Maybe I don't know how to write print anymore. I don't know, because I do use ChatGPT heavily, but you make a very good point. It shouldn't be used as a crutch, but that's why you should always refine your skills. Like listing presentations, buyer presentations, consults, still making those cold calls. Yes, it's going to cut it down, but it reminds me of, you mentioned a few agents were burnt out. Well, if they had AI to their tool belt, maybe the burnout wouldn't have happened. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm not in their shoes, but I think the benefits definitely all outweigh the cons. But yes, there's going to be a negative with anything. It's like
Watch yourself. Okay. No, and I agree with you there. And well, let's save the wholesaling for last. Let's talk about Zillow. I think it's a good subject to talk about right after AI, because it's online based. Everybody uses Zillow. So I'm bringing up Zillow because I know it's become even more of a subject of Zillow is going to replace us all these agents. And they've been saying that for years. And I saw a video. There's a popular brokerage here that is very Zillow based. They're almost only Zillow based. And I saw a video that they came out with talking about why they like Zillow and why they love Zillow. And they straight up said, I know all of us are worried that Zillow might take our jobs. And then she goes on to talk about Zillow's great because, they're able to bring in all these leads and everything. What's that? Yeah. Yeah, in the background. It was a pretty close-up shot. So with Zillow, it's really, first off, do you like Zillow?
I like Zillow.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it has its drawbacks, but I think it's what I mentioned earlier. I mean, it's
More power to the people.
exactly. It's a lot more information that the consumer can access.
The interface is also one of the easiest things to use. Is obviously I use the MLS if I'm like really digging deep into stuff. Sometimes though, I will hop on Zillow and just be like, "Did you see this house?" and send them a Zillow link. "Did you see this house?" Send them a Zillow link because everybody uses it. My mouse pad right here is literally a Zillow mouse pad. The big bad thing is that this Zillow will take so much market share that you have to attach your boat to the Zillow ship to even get anywhere. And that's the fear is, can you exist without Zillow? What do you think?
Can us
Let me
as an
reframe
agent,
that.
yeah,
I think that reframe it in the fact that there's obviously agents that a lot of their business comes from people they know, referrals, like that. Zillow's never going to replace that, right? My best friend is going to use me because he's my best friend. Okay. But I'm talking about he's going to buy maybe 1 or 2 houses in his lifetime and then sell one of them. So there's 3 transactions most likely in his lifetime. Okay. I can't eat off of that. Do you think to perform at a high capacity and a high volume, you need to hitch your ride to Zillow?
yes and no. I not necessarily Zillow specifically because none of my business comes from Zillow. But I am a big believer in, again, I know this isn't a real estate agent podcast, it's more towards the consumer, but there's 2 circles. There's a circle of people you know and the circle of who you don't know. Obviously, guys, viewers, that circle is going to be much bigger. So my focus as my business model is I tend to focus a lot on referrals.
Real quick, when you say referrals, you're talking about referral companies that refer Zillow, Realtor.com,
Exactly.
these big websites, not referrals from like, hey, my buddy that I work with said he needs to buy a home.
Yeah, sorry guys. I meant referrals from these big name shops like Redfin, Zillow, Homelight, Referral Exchange. I can keep going. But that is, I'd say, yeah, it's a lot. I'd say that's probably about 80% of my business is people that I don't know. Now I'm not knocking on people like you whose their business is prominently people you actually do know because there can be success in it. You know, if you really focus and hone down on that, that is your business model. It's just how I see it, how my business model just works for me and my personality. You know, obviously Wes is a more extroverted person, and so he's just gonna know a lot more people, and so I think it's gonna be specific to the specific agent. But I don't even associate myself with Zillow.
I gotcha. Okay, then I appreciate that you brought in these other companies. I think that the big scare is that Zillow has so much power that they can shift how things operate.
I think they can.
So, of course, and they have already done it. So they have that. So referral companies, when we say referral companies, obviously, like he said, we mean Zillow, we mean Realtor.com, we mean Movoto, and we could keep going on because they refer a person you don't know to you. You buy that lead in essence. Now, there's 2 ways to buy that lead. You could pay for leads up front, or you can pay them when you close that home. Now, Zillow does a double down. Have you heard of this? No. They do a double down in that, let's say I get someone from Zillow. You know, you log on to consumers, you log on to Zillow, you scroll down and you see an agent's face right there. That's somebody that's paid for that, okay? Or you say request an appointment. They're going to refer you to somebody that's paid them for that, okay? That's how they get that referral. You set that appointment, you go through the whole thing, offer, inspection, blah, blah, you close the home, okay? You owe, if you didn't pay up front, you owe Zillow a certain percent, okay? 40%, 50%. They change it. They keep going up, okay? They keep going up, and that's why I'm saying they're changing it. The double down is, let's say they sell that home and buy the next home, you owe Zillow again. It's only the 3rd transaction that you don't owe Zillow something, okay?
I did not know that.
Double down on it. And that could be selling that home, then you owe Zillow, or let's say they buy a second home, you owe Zillow. It's 2 transactions that you owe Zillow, the double down. That's new. So that's what I'm saying. They're changing the rules more and more because
And they're taking more of the pie each time.
the pie. Essentially, it was, okay, I'm paying Zillow this first time, or I'm paying a certain split, right? If it's a brokerage generated lead versus a self-generated lead. What's happening is your goal is to, for every transaction closed, hopefully gain 3 transactions from it because you did so great that they recommend you to friends and family. What Zillow's doing is they're dipping in even more. They're like, we don't want anybody to not pay us in a transaction as they grow and grow and grow. Zillow wants to be in everything. I don't like that.
Yeah, that sounds
It's ridiculous. It's just not my thing. I think that it's just like AI. It can be a tool or it can be a crutch. The hope is that you generate. My goal personally, and we're very different, the people you know, the people you don't know, my goal is to have most of my business come from people I know, what we call sphere, and referrals from my sphere. My friend said he's buying a house. My friend said he's selling a house. My mom wants to buy a house, yada, yada. And padding it with the people I don't know. Whereas yours is the bulk comes from, it's the opposite, right? Glover always says, never be reliant on Zillow, because Zillow could wake up one day and say, now you owe us 60%.
I think it'll continue going up until eventually, I'm sure
They're just going to have their own agents.
I'm sure there's a Jeff Bezos that works in Zillow that looks 10 years in advance. And in his mind, he's like, okay, like eventually we're going to phase out the buyer's agent. Zillow is your agent. Zillow will be the one doing the negotiation.
Yep. And it's going to be salaried employees. I know Redfin already does it. It's going to be people that work exactly for Zillow. Yeah. And what it truly comes down to, I think it's the frog in the boiling pot, is if you turn it up 1 degree at a time, the frog never notices. And that's why Zillow went from 35 to 40 before, but I'm just saying 35 to 40 to 45. Like, it's a little bit at a time, especially in hard times like this where people are like, oh, I need as many leads and I need business. Great, the demand's there for agents, just cranking the heat up. Yeah, so that's Zillow.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it happens. It's funny how that I know what brokerage you're talking about, who is predominantly Zillow.
It's all Zillow.
Yeah,
that's their big flex,
and that's their draw. It's like we get so many leads.
If you can't beat them, join them. That's that brokerage. They're like, we're in, we're fully in. We are a Zillow brokerage. To each your own. All right, let's talk about wholesaling. Okay. July 1st, 2025. So there are 4 states. I watched a video. Less so I watched a video. I watched someone doing it live on TikTok. And they brought up that there are 4 or 5 states in the United States where wholesaling is very different. Okay. Oregon being one of them. July 1st, 2025, this year, Oregon passed that you have to be a wholesaler with the Oregon Real Estate Agency or a registered real estate agent with the same agency to wholesale. They also made it that you have to disclose that you're a wholesaler, your status. You have to disclose your equitable interest in the transaction. This is my interest. This is what I'm making, everybody. And you have to tell them that they can cancel the contract.
I like it. I mean,
you do.
I do.
Okay.
I mean, the reason why I like it because it's a better service for the consumer. Because I think probably why this happened was obviously anyone and anybody can be a wholesaler. Like you and I, they can easily just go to an appointment and be like, oh, I'm going to lock you down into a contract at, let's say, $200K. Then I'm going to sell the piece of paper for $220. And so you guys as a consumer, what is a wholesaler?
There we go. I was about to say,
a wholesaler is someone, essentially what I said, it can be before July 1st, it can be anybody. They're essentially selling the rights or the paper or the note to potentially purchase a house, single family house, condo, townhome, it doesn't matter. Let's say I'm buying it for $200K, or I'm putting on paper that I'm going to buy it for $200K. I do set an actual close date, maybe 35 days from the contract. And then I don't necessarily have to disclose to you guys or that seller that I'm going to be selling the note. Now, within the contract, yes, it has to dictate that. It has to dictate that there is a possibility that this note can be transferred to another investor or whatever. And then during that 35-day close, me as the wholesaler has to find a in buyer. Let's say Wes right here is my in buyer. I'm going to sell it to him for 220, 225, and I essentially make the difference of 200K and 225K. So I made 25K of practically doing nothing. I mean, finding an in buyer is difficult, but I think why this rule happened was because a lot of these consumers were realizing that shit, like you just sold the note or the paper to another person. You never were intentionally buying it in the first place, and you made money off of maybe my distress, maybe my financial burden. I was getting foreclosed on, and maybe they could have made that K difference by, potentially selling on the market or going to that specific end buyer. And so I think the issue that we saw before July 1st was a lot of these wholesalers were not agents like myself. And I do wholesale, but I also disclose the fact that I'm a real estate broker, that there is potential of selling the note. And I think since it's such an easy barrier of entry, because like I said at the beginning, anyone can do a wholesale. I think it started to screw up a lot of the consumer and just created a whole new mess. And so I am for this change because it's going to kick out the shitty people, the people who actually don't give a crap about these people. They're in it for obviously a financial gain.
Hell yeah. That was a great explanation, and I'm going to make it even more digestible. You're so smart. You're too smart. So I'm going to make it in layman's terms. Okay. And I'm going to explain where the issue is too in a more actual example here. Because I'm a lot more on social media than Phong. I already know it. Phong, if he has a free minute, he's not scrolling TikTok. He's probably doing push-ups. Okay. So me, I do my push-ups while watching TikTok. So basically, let's say I'm a 20-year-old kid. Okay. Maybe I go on Zillow. Okay. I see that this home has been on the market for 200 days. Okay. It's listed for 300,000. I call them and I say, hey, would you take $1,000 cash? Or whatever the fuck. And they go, yes. I go, great. Let me draw up a contract. They draw up a contract. They usually look real sketchy. And they send in this contract that they're going to buy this home for $250,000. Like you said, close in a month. I now am turning around to other people and say, hey, I have this home for $275,000. Do you want to buy this home, this note, this contract? Do you want to buy the right to buy this home for $275,000? And you go around all these investors and somebody says yes. And you're like, great. Now that person that bought it for $275,000 is now the person buying this house. The seller gets their $250,000 from your original contract. The other person pays $275,000. That's how you pay your $250,000, and you pocket $25,000. Okay, you don't put any money into it. But where the problem was, and where it was lying, was people are always looking for quick, get-rich-quick schemes. People are always looking for that. And so for a time, there was a huge push online and social media. This is how you can make an easy buck. Just go on there. You tell them you're going to buy it for $250,000. You sell the note for $275,000. You don't even have to put any money in. You'll make 25 G's. What was happening were these kids weren't finding people to buy the note, or they were screwing up the contract, or shady people were coming in and saying $250,000, and 3 days before they're going to close, the people already moved out. They're like, this is going to close. And they said, hey, I'm not going to buy it anymore for $250,000. I'm going to buy it for $220,000. Why do they do that? Because they didn't find a buyer at $275,000, but they found a buyer at $250,000. And so they're crashing down the price. They're already moved out, and they are almost forced to say yes. So it was screwing over the sellers quite a lot because these people were fumbling it. That, I agree with you. I think it's great because I think there is a right way to wholesale and a wrong way to wholesale. That was the wrong way to wholesale. That's why they're putting regulations around it. And it's a lot harder to screw up if you're a broker or if you're registered, because once you're registered, now you answer to somebody.
And I'm all for it because, like you said, I'm a registered licensed real estate broker. Therefore, I'm bound by ethics, the NAR. And so I have a higher standard of taking care of, potential sellers. But it's like you made a very good point. Like social media has created a craze for kids, very young kids who don't even know how to even like transact in real estate. They've never purchased real estate before, but they saw the idea as like, okay, no money down. They don't care about potentially screwing somebody up. And it's actually sad because I know someone, and you know them too, who is known to, a week before close be like, hey, like inspections happen, but I need to drop it because it no longer makes sense. And I don't know why, for that specific reason, like why they had to drop price, like if they couldn't find an in buyer or it just didn't make sense for a flip. I don't know. But yes, there's a correct way and there's an incorrect way. And I'm all for the change. Yes, it's going to require more paperwork. Yes, more disclosures. Yes, more oversight, which sucks. It's almost like you could potentially get audited and really like screw up your financial well-being. But I mean, I think, like my business, my career is real estate sales in terms of helping the consumer. I think if there's more power towards the consumer, that's just a better process in my opinion.
Couldn't have said it better. All right. Well, let's end, and I want to try to end each episode with a question so we can hear all back from you. Now that you all know a little bit more about wholesalers, this is to our audience. I want to hear what you think about wholesalers. Do you like it? Do you not like it? What are your thoughts on wholesalers? And I think we'll discuss what we hear next time we have a time to do so. But yeah, let's hear your thoughts on wholesalers. And I hope you liked the episode. I thought it was great. We're talking a little bit behind the scenes of what's going on in the real estate world, not necessarily the market, but just kind of these moving parts. But this is Wesley with Mate Real Estate, your buyer specialist, signing off.
And this is Phong Tran, your seller specialist. It's good to be back, guys. And so definitely stay tuned for weekly episodes because this is what we love to do. This is our bread and butter.
That's right. Take care, everybody.